edition of the show, and I am really looking forward to showing you the next step in our macrame journey today. We've got some housekeeping to take care of before we get started with all of that. And of course, I want to say hello to all of you who are watching. Thank you for joining me and letting me be a part of your Monday afternoon. Mondays are kind of hard, you guys. I know they are. Mondays are hard. They're even hard for me. I woke up this morning not feeling particularly excited about the day, but then I remembered that we're on step 2 of our macrame journey, and it definitely lifted my spirits because macrame is one of my very favorite things. I love knotting. Wire, of course, is my love language, but macrame and knotting is where I got my start in jewelry making, and I'm very excited to get to share that with you. And I think we had a great show last Monday, so I'm looking forward to another great show today. I got a lot of fun things to show you. Hi, Debbie. Hi, Wendy. Hi, Jennifer and Alicia. It's so good to see everybody. I love it when there are familiar faces in the house. It is wonderful. Wonderful to see you guys. All right, so let's talk about the housekeeping before we get started with today's show. I just want to remind everybody that there is a shop button at the bottom of your screen. You can hit that shop button at any point during today's show, and it's going to show you all of the items that are in today's show. So whether I've talked about it and we've moved on, or I haven't talked about it yet and you're just feeling a little impatient like I get sometimes, you can hit that shop button. It's going to bring up the information about every single item in today's show. You can get all of that information and add those items to your cart and even check out all without leaving the show, right? You're going to be able to do all of that and still watch the show. It's just going to make me a little bit smaller, but I'm not going anywhere, which is fantastic, so you don't have to miss anything. But sometimes when we're shopping for things, we navigate away. It's hard to find our way back. You don't have to worry about any of that. By hitting that shop button, you're not going to lose me, which is great, right? But let's say you do have to leave the show for some reason. I know life happens. Or if you order your items and in a couple of days they show up and you've forgotten what it is that you were going to do with them, you can always watch this as a video on demand. So you can watch this as a replay. You can hit mute. You don't even have to hear me talk, which is I know some of you's preferred way to watch. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know. Probably is, but that's okay. Doesn't hurt my feelings at all, as long as I'm inspiring you and showing you something maybe that you didn't know how to do. Otherwise, I'm okay. You can hit that mute button. It's fine with me. You can fast forward through the chit chat and get straight to the project, which is fantastic, you guys. And if you do not mind, hit those heart buttons while you are watching the show today. Anytime you see something that you love, whether you love the technique or the product, or you are just having a good time, you want to share some love and let everybody know how you're feeling, hit those heart buttons to share. And speaking of sharing, if you do not mind, to share this video anywhere you are able to do so. So if you're part of a Facebook group that allows you to share these kinds of videos, we definitely encourage you to share those. Or if you just want to share these on your own personal social media feeds, we appreciate that as well, because that is like virtual word of mouth. It is the very best way to reach all of the makers out there who don't know about us yet. And believe it or not, there are makers who don't know about JTV, don't know about Jewel School, don't know about JTV Extra or Master Maker, and we want to reach all of those people and bring them into our ever-growing community with open arms, right? We've got a great community. We have a whole lot of fun here, so we definitely have the feeling of the more the merrier, and that is a great way for you to help us out by helping us to reach all of the potential makers or makers that just don't know about us yet, right? All right. Hello. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Nicole. Hi, Susie. Linda is here. All right, guys. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So let me just give you a quick reminder as to how the Monday edition of Master Maker goes. And for those of you who are new, just to give you a quick little rundown. So I do a Master Maker show on Friday afternoons at 4 p.m. Set your reminders for that, of course. And during those shows, we talk about clasps, focals, specialty findings, and beads, and I show you really cool ways kind of outside the box of how to incorporate all of those great things into your jewelry making. But the Monday edition of Master Maker is a little bit differently, goes a little bit differently. We focus on technique, right, for an entire month, actually. So the last month, we focused on Wire 101. We started with the very, very basics of wire and worked our way up a little ways, right? We started with simple loops, wrapped loops, knotted head pins, and just some simple wire wrapping, and we spent the entire month working our way through that. And for the month of October, If you'll remember, last Monday we got together and we have started our journey for the month of October, going through macrame and knotting. I showed you guys one very important knot last week. I showed you all of the cool ways that you could use it, and today we're going to take it a step further, right? So we learned that first basic knot. Now we're going to go a little bit further with that exact same knot, but we're just going to change it up a little bit, and I'm going to show you what else is possible, right? We're just going to work our way through. All right, so first and foremost, we do have some items in the show that are going to make your macrame and knotting life a whole lot easier and a lot more sparkly and fun, right? So I'm going to turn you guys around and we're going to get started with all of the materials. Now, you may remember these materials from last week, right? I kind of keep the same materials for the entire month, so maybe they didn't spark your interest last Monday, but maybe this Monday you're feeling a little different about it. That's my hope, right? So I'm going to turn you around and we are going to get started. All right, so first up is our macrame boards. Let me clean off my bead mat here a little bit. Can you tell I have pets? I think sometimes you can. All right, I'm going to start us out with the macrame board. This is designed by Ann Dilker. This is a 10 by 14 gridded board. It is a self-healing mat, and this is one of my favorite ways to do macrame and knotting because you can actually attach to this in a couple of different ways. Now, my favorite way to attach things to this board is with T-pins. You just place those right into the board, and because it's nice and gridded, you can really like get good measurements here. You can place those T-pins anywhere throughout the entire board. I like to pin my stuff at the top and pin at the bottom if I can, but you don't even have to do it that way. If you don't want to use the pins, which by the way, I mentioned this is self-healing, so those holes eventually will go away, which is fantastic. But if you don't want to do it that way, you can use the little notches up here at the top, and look how far you can slide your materials down. So you just put it right up here, and then you're just going to pull, and it's going to bring it down, and it's nice and secure. These little notches go all the way around the board, by the way, all the way down both sides and across the bottom, which is really, really helpful, particularly if you're doing something where you've got multi-strands. You can space those strands out and have several of those, or you can create loops here and work on your loop. If you wanted to make like a knotted sinnet here, you could do that. So a really handy board to have. Now, keep in mind, this is a 10 by 14 inch grid. This is a large board, right? This is definitely for your larger projects. This is really going to accommodate any kind of project, but this definitely has enough surface area for some larger projects. If that's a little bit too big for you, consider the mini version. This is the mini macrame board, also designed by Ann Dilker. This is just a smaller version of that one. So the previous one was a 10 by 14. This one is a 6 by 9. So this is just a smaller version of that. This is a great travel size. You can just toss it in your bag, or you can just sit it over to the side on your desk. It doesn't take up a whole lot of room, which is awesome. So you can buy those individually if you would like, or you can grab them as a set. So I've got the macrame board, the large one, and the mini together. So you can really kind of decide what it is. If you want one or the other, or if you want both, because you can't decide, then I have both options available for you. So all right, going to be using those in today's show, and got some other things that we are going to be using. So as far as our stringing materials are concerned, I have got some wax cord for you guys in moonlit brown and medium gray. Now, the wax cord's one of my favorites. We talked a little bit about last week how much I like this and why, and a lot of it has to do with the wax that is actually on here. So you don't have to treat this yourself. You don't have to use your beeswax to condition your threads or anything like that. This already has a nice wax layer on it, which means that when you tie a knot with this stuff, it is really, really grippy, right? Those knots are going to stay nice and secure. And if you don't believe me, just try to take one of these knots out after you have knotted it. It's gonna take a lot of patience and probably a lot of sentence enhancers to get a knot out of a waxed cord. The knots, again, just really grip to themselves because of that wax, but also because of that wax, you can really kind of smooth out the end of your cord and use it very much like a needle to go through some of those holes in your beads that are a little bit trickier. You can smooth this out. You don't have to worry about it fraying at all, which is really, really nice. So a lot of great things about the wax cord, but this one in particular, or this set in particular, comes in two absolutely beautiful neutral colors that are going to be great for fall. So we've got the beautiful medium gray and the moonlit brown. These are going to be a great color choice to use if you want to accent your beads with your cord, but they also kind of serve as a camouflage as well. So, you know, if you wanted to make a bright color design and you grab the gray or the brown, it's going to kind of disappear into the design. So it really just kind of depends on what it is that you're going to be doing, how much of your knotting you're going to be doing, and how much of this cord is going to be shown. But if you're going to do some stringing projects where very little of this is going to show, it really is going to kind of disappear into your design. So really great use of two different colors here. Now, if that is not your jam, if you don't like waxed cord, perhaps you will like some milk chocolate Eslon. This is 77 meters. So you can look at that from the side and you can see that's a lot. 77 meters is going to get you through several projects. And that's probably an understatement. 77 meters is a lot of this stuff. So this is different than the wax cord because it is not pre-treated. It doesn't have any of that wax on it. Now that doesn't mean that you can't treat it. If you want to treat this with some of your wax, you absolutely can do that. You can stiffen up the ends of this by dipping the end down into some super glue if you want to, and let that set up, and you're going to have like a needle-like end to this. Again, it's a beautiful brown color that's going to be great for fall. Or if you're just using it sparingly throughout your design and it's not part of the focal, it will kind of camouflage into the piece. So I love neutrals like that, right? Neutrals like that are so wonderful to use. But this is one of my favorite cords to use. It is a little bit on the slippery side, so you do have to take that into consideration when you're making knots with this. But it does knot beautifully. You can do micro macrame with this. You can double and triple this up to do some thicker macrame with it. It's beautiful for stringing. It's really just a really nice cord to have on hand. So milk chocolate Eslon, and that is again 77 meters. So that's quite a bit of cord, right? All right, so once you've got all of those cords and you've got your macrame boards, what are you going to use with those? Well, I have got some Indonesian inspired tube shape beads in 3 different styles, and these have large holes. So let me show you these really quickly. Again, these are the same as we had last week, but just a gentle reminder that these are all going to stay available through forever, actually, but we're going to be featuring them, of course, during the month of October as we work our way through macrame. But each one of these has its own personality, and the holes on these are a little bit different as well. So you can see this one has sort of a medium-sized hole. It's got some beautiful accented texture design to the outside of it. It's just really pretty. This one has a smaller hole. This is the smallest hole of the 3. And then we've got one with a nice large hole. Now, why do we want this large hole? Why do we want these large hole beads, particularly with our waxed cord, which was a nice thin cord? Why would we want that combination? I'm glad you asked. Because we're going to be able to fit multiple strands through these large hole beads. Now, these are great for, just like I said, multiple stringing materials. So if you're doing knotting techniques and you need to like stuff a bead full of 6 pieces of wax cord, you're going to be able to do that with this large hole bead, right? You really are going to do that to get kind of a streamlined, very seamless look where you don't have to have the knotting running to the outside, the cords running to the outside of the bead. Like, you're going to be able to take tons of strands through these large holes, which is fantastic, but you're also going to be able to use these with your leather, because remember, macrame and knotting can be done with all kinds of stringing materials. It doesn't just have to be waxed cord or your B-lines or S-lines. You can use hemp, you can use ribbon, you can use leather, you can use cotton cord. So having a large hole bead is going to be nice because you're going to be able to accommodate so many different stringing materials, which really opens up all of the different possibilities when it comes to your macrame. So there are 3 different styles here, and of course they are, like I mentioned, large hole beads. There's 230 pieces total, so that is a ton of beads, right? A ton. All right, I'm going to sit these to the side. I've got one more thing to show you before we talk about beads, and excuse me, that is some tiara cast fashion buttons in antique gold, silver, and oxidized brass plating. There are 12 of these total, and this is one of my very favorite things to use as a clasp for macrame and knotting, and quite honestly, just for stringing in general. Using a button is a fantastic way to really show off a great button if you've got one, or to really show off, not to show off, but if you've got dexterity issues and you don't want to mess with a clasp, right? If it's just a little bit too much trouble to mess with a clasp, having one of these buttons as an option is wonderful, because all you're doing is just, if you can just thread it through a loop, then you've got a clasp. You don't have to worry. You don't have to be like, oh, I got to go find somebody to help me put my bracelet on. Having a button is a really simple way to put your jewelry on and take your jewelry off, but it's also nice and secure. And why not have a beautiful piece as that button to kind of add to your design? So Tiara Cast, you guys know, does a lot of things really well. We're very sad to see Tiara Cast go. This is an opportunity to grab up some of the remaining Tiara Cast that is in the world, right? I don't want to dwell on that too much, but this is, of course, an opportunity to grab some of these amazing buttons from Tiara Cast. Again, these are silver, antique gold, and oxidized brass plating. There are approximately 12 pieces here. All of them are different. I believe one of mine is missing that I have. It's right here. It's in a design that we did last week. So there's number 12, if you're curious. You're like, oh, wait a minute, there's only 11 there. No, there are 12. We just used this one last week in our project. All right, so I'm going to sit these to the side. Susie says, love button closure bracelets. Me too. It is so nice to have a button. They're so easy to put on, but then they add just a really nice decorative touch to whatever it is that you're working on. So love those. All right, so let's talk about beads. I've got large hole beads, and guys, large hole beads are sometimes hard to find, particularly in an affordable way. And JTV and Jewel School have put together a whole inventory of large hole beads for us, which is really nice because it can really be a one-stop shop. You can grab your macrame board, you can grab your leather, you can grab your B-line, you can grab your wax cord, your buttons, and large hole beads all in one place, and you don't have to go looking all over the internet and price checking and all of that. So I love that these large hole beads are available. So these are all individual, by the way. This is not a group listing. They are individual strands. I'm going to start out with the serpentine strand because we used this one last week and I want to show it off just as a quick little reminder of what we did last week, but to also show off this beautiful bead. So a large hole an 8mm round serpentine. This green color is a beautiful green neutral, right? If green could be a neutral, this would be the shade for sure. This is really going to work really well with all of your browns and tans and creams and blacks. You can add this to just about anything. It's really a beautiful green. We used it with some brown leather last week to create a bracelet with the knot that I showed you guys. That was our step 1 in macrame. So there's that beautiful green serpentine 8mm large hole bead. All right. Moving on from that, we have a rhodonite simulant. This is an 8mm round large hole bead. This strand is approximately 7 to 8 inches long. And just like I said with the green, which is kind of funny, people kind of roll their eyes at me when I say this, but if pink could be a neutral, which we know it's not, I'm just saying, right? There are certain shades of colors that are not neutrals, but they work in place of. If pink could be a neutral, it would be this. it would be this. This looks amazing with gray. It looks amazing with brown. It looks amazing with blue. It looks great with just about everything. And pink is not necessarily one of those colors that you can mix with just about anything, but in this shade, you really can. You can kind of get away with mixing this with some unexpected colors that normally pink wouldn't necessarily go with. So again, this is rhodonite simulant, 8mm. So pretty. All right, I'm going to sit that one over here to the side. We've got one of my favorites, which is Red Tiger Eye. This is also an 8mm large hole bead, an 8-inch strand of these. This is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful bead. Now, I love regular yellow tiger eye, but red tiger eye is one of my favorites because it's not like a bright, like a, I don't know, like a stop sign red. This is more of a, like a warm kind of rusty brown red that is going to look so beautiful in your fall jewelry designs. Love that. All right, I've got, let's see here, I've got so many strands to pick from. I have got a rose quartz 8mm large hole strand. Everybody loves rose quartz, and you can see why. This is just such a beautiful bead. It's such a soft, feminine bead that you can really mix in with so many other things. It's really, really pretty, and I love that it's available in a large hole. That's awesome. All right, we also have some smoky quartz. This is another absolutely beautiful bead. This is going to be great for your fall designs. Another 8mm round bead with a large hole. This is an 8-inch strand. Hi, Mary. How are you? So good to see you. Hi, Susie. Hi, Mary. Hi, PJ. We've got a couple of Marys, just in case you're like, well, she said that twice. No. We've got a lot of Marys. Love all our Marys. All right, we also have, you guys, Rocky Butte Jasper. This is one of my favorite beads that I have in the show. This is an approximately 10mm bead. So this is a little bit bigger than some of the other strands that I've got, but it is a large hole bead as well. This is a 7 to 8-inch strand, and it's got so many beautiful fall colors here. There are some deep brick reds, greens, grays, browns, blues, tans. It has a little bit of everything. This is an amazingly beautiful bead, and everybody's strands, of course, are going to be different because they all have kind of a different personality, but gosh, they're pretty. You're going to be able to mix this with leather and with cord and with hemp. It's going to look amazing. So pretty. All right, now we're going to move on to the rondelles. I've got 3 different strands of rondelles for you guys. I have Fossil Stone. This is an 8mm rondelle. This is also a large hole bead and a 7 to 8-inch strand. This beautiful gray is going to mix with just about everything. Gray is such a nice neutral. You're going to be able to mix this with your greens and your blacks and your browns. So pretty. It looks really good with the rose quartz. I know that might be a little unexpected, but gosh, it just makes such a beautiful combination. It really, really does. And it really kind of takes your neutral out of maybe a kind of, I don't want to say drab because I love neutrals. So that's not quite accurate, but this takes it to a happy place. If that makes any sense whatsoever, right? It takes it to a happy place when you mix it with the pink. Not that it's not beautiful. Not that it's not beautiful on its own, because it is, and it's not drab. I don't know, you guys. It's Monday. What do you want from me? All right, I've got Dumortierite in quartz in an 8mm rondelle as well. This is, of course, just like all the rest, a large hole bead. This is such a pretty blue. It's like a denim blue. You're going to be able to mix this with so many different things. I do love a smooth rondelle because they are just kind of yummy. They almost look like candy. Please don't try to eat these beads, but gosh, they're pretty. These are going to look beautiful with black. It's one of my favorite things to mix denim blue with, which I think is kind of out of the box, but I mean, it's me. What do you expect? But this looks good with so many other things as well, but I definitely like to mix this with a black because it's kind of moody, right? All right, and I've got one more strand for you guys in a finish that I absolutely love. So this is Matte Turquoise Simulant, an 8mm rondelle, large hole, 8-inch strand, and that matte finish is stunning. This is such a cool finish to so many different beads, but if you mix it with a turquoise simulant, it just looks really, really cool. There's something about it that's very, very boho. I love it. And this turquoise simulant has lots of different shades of the greens and the blues and the browns and the grays and the blacks. So you're going to be able to mix this with a lot of different things as well. This is, again, just a really cool bead. This is most definitely going to be a nice bead to use in your unisex designs. You know, if you've got somebody that is not big on super bright pops of color, you can still get color using this one, but in a muted way. And I think you're going to be able to get a lot of design ideas from this strand. Super, super pretty. Mary says, all these beads are beautiful. I agree. I agree. All right. So that's all of the items. Don't forget, you can hit that shop button at any point during this show, right? To refamiliarize yourself with the items that we have in the show. But I do want to bring out my macrame board here, and I want to do a quick little refresh. Okay. We're going to do a quick little refresh, and then we're going to talk about step 2 in our journey. So last week I showed you guys, now I'm showing you with leather just because it's a little bit thicker, so it's easier for you to see the knot. But imagine any of the things that we're doing today in the waxed cord or that beautiful S-Lawn, okay? And we actually are going to do our actual project with the S-Lawn, but showing you with this is just a little bit easier. So if you'll remember, last week we worked on the half hitch knot, and I showed you one knot in a bunch of different ways to use that knot. Today I'm going to show you a little variation of that exact knot, because that is the basic knot of all macrame. I'm going to show you that. So if you'll remember, our knot from last week is our core. We're taking our knotting cord and we are crossing over the top of our core to make a P shape, right? And then we are going to take that cord behind the core and up through our P shape, and then we pull, right? And that is our half hitch knot. That is just one simple knot. But if you'll remember, that knot can be so many different things. So we created our bracelet by doing those knots in between each one of our beads. We use those beautiful green. Let me bring that serpentine strand back out here. We use this beautiful serpentine strand for our project. You can alternate and get a really cool kind of pattern. So we did it on the right and then we did it on the left. So we did a P and we did a Q and we did a P and we did a Q all over the top of our core cord here to get this really cool look, right? You can also carry on doing the same knot and the same just over and over and over again without any beads to get a really cool spiral pattern as well. And of course, it is also the base of macrame, micro macrame, where you are just repeating that same half hitch knot over and over again, just across a line of cords, right? So this really is kind of the basic knot to start all kinds of macrame projects, right? All right, so now we're going to change that up a little bit. So we very first started out with making our P shape to get that half hitch knot where we were going over the top of our core cord. We're going to take it, same thing, but now we're going to go underneath our core, right? And we're going to take our cord down through our P shape and pull. And when we pull with that knot that we very first did, where we did it across the top, then we went under the top. Now we have a little lark's head knot. Does that knot look familiar to you? It's a lark's head knot, but we've done it with a single strand. So if you're unfamiliar with a lark's head knot, let me show you real quick. Let's see. I need a little piece of. So basically for a lark's head knot, you guys have all seen these before, where you take your cord and you are going to fold it in half. And then let's see if I've got something I can show this on. Don't know that I do, but you basically just take your cord ends and pull them through, and it creates this shaped knot right here, right? And you do that with 2 strands because you fold your strand in half. Well, this is doing that exact same knot, but with a singular strand, right? And it creates this cute little knot, and you can then use this knot in a ton of different ways. So I'll show you. It's a 2-step knot, but it's basically 2 of the same knot with 1 variation. So again, starting with our P shape, right? Across the top of our core, taking it behind and up through. That's step 1, pull, okay? Step 2, same P shape, just going underneath and going down through that P shape with your cord. Try to grab the end here. And down through that P shape and pull. And you've got that knot. So the knot happens in 2 steps. You do your regular half hitch, and then you do your half hitch with the P shape going underneath the core, and that's exactly what you're going to get, right? Now the cool part about this is that you have the ability to add beads to this. You also have the ability to add little jump rings to this, and I'll show you exactly where. If you turn this sideways and you look at it just like this. Now with the leather, it's a little hard to see. Let me grab grab a beading awl here so I can point it out to you. But if you'll turn it sideways like this, you can see there are little openings right here. See those little openings? Those in between each one of our knots, a jump ring will fit beautifully right in that. So you could hang dangles from this. So if you wanted to make a bracelet that had dangles on one side, or maybe an anklet, right? An ankle bracelet. If you got somebody that is a beach lover in your life and loves beach jewelry, even in the fall and the winter, I know somebody who's like that, by the way. Putting a jump ring through here gives you an opportunity to hang a dangle, and we all know I love dangles. So, I mean, what isn't there to love about that, right? But it's just a simple knot, but we've really kind of changed things up a little bit. Same knot that we did last week, but we've just changed it up by changing the placement of the cord before you actually do the knot itself, right? So that's going to give you a really nice tight line. However, show you what this looks like if we added some beads to this. And I'm going to grab some more beads. So this is what it looks like when you add a bead in between those knots. So let me grab some more of our little serpentine beads so I can slide one or two of these up there so you can see what it looks like as you're doing the knotting, right? So for this one, I've got a double strand core, and I've got these nice large hole beads that are going to fit perfectly on, okay? And slide up a bead, right? And you're just going to do the exact same knot. So you're going to do your P shape over the core, behind and up through. Okay, then you're going to do the same thing, but you're going to go underneath. So your P shape with your cord going underneath, and this time you're going to go down through and pull. And now you've got your knot. You can really see those knots in between there, which is just a really nice little accent to your piece, right? So again, with our P shape over the core, and then our P shape under the core, and pull. Right? Really makes a beautiful design. Again, a pretty bracelet, a really nice anklet, the front section of a necklace, or an entire necklace if you wanted to. Just a really cool little look. And it's basically the same knot that we learned last week with just a slight little variation to it. Now, let me show you another variation to the same thing. Okay, so what if we did a little variation where we were going the same or going in alternating directions. So remember last week we did our half hitch knot, and we did it on the we did it as a P shape, and then we could do it on the other side backwards as a Q shape. Let me move this down just a little bit so I can secure the bottom of that. All right, so what if we did the same thing with this knot, right? So you can see I've got my P shape on the right. I can do the same thing with the P shape on the left, right? Just making a Q shape instead of a P. Same exact knot and the same exact steps. Now this one I'm alternating. I've got two different cords going on here, just to make things a little more intricate. But basically it's the exact same knot. I'm just making a Q shape and doing my over the core and under the core, right? So you can make it go either direction. And then you can get this kind of crazy knotted look by alternating. I've got two cords going, so I'm using the top cords and then the bottom cords, and that's a whole different project in itself. But for our project today, we are going to actually do that. We're going to create, I'll show you what it looks like because I've got part of it already ready. I'm going to get you started with it. But you can create this beautiful kind of lace design by alternating the directions, just like I showed you with the leather. This is just with a single strand on either side instead of multiple strands, and putting some beads in between there. Okay, so this is our project for today. I'm going to get you started, and we're going to go and try to get through as much of this as we can, and we'll probably switch over to this one so I can show you. But this actually has a bead stringing wire core to it, which is kind of nice because it means that I can use real hardware here. Even if you wanted to use a button, you can still, you just make your loop a little bit bigger to accommodate a button. However, if you wanted to use a regular clasp of some variety and your crimps and things, you can really use that as your core instead of your B-line or any of the other, or your S-line. Okay. All right. So let's get started with that. So basically let's start with our bead stringing wire here. I'm going to take a piece of bead stringing wire and I'm going to start this out just like I would any other stringing project. Let me reach across here and grab the things that I need. I'm going to take a crimp and I'm going to thread that onto the end of my beading wire. And then I'm going to thread on a wire guardian. You can skip the wire guardian if you want to, totally up to you. I'm going to take my beading wire back down through my wire guardian and then back down through my crimp tube. Okay. And then I want to be sure that my beading wire is not crossing inside there. Right, so the beading wire is running parallel. You can kind of squeeze your wire guardian a little bit if you want to make it a little bit more compact. All right, I'm going to come in with my crimper tool, place that into the back notch of the crimper tool. I'm going to give that a squeeze, and I'm going to give it the tug test to make sure that I got a good crimp on that. I'm going to turn it sideways, place it into the front notch of my crimper tool, and give that a squeeze. That's going to make it a little bit more compact. Just kind of tidies it up a bit. All right, then I'm going to trim off the excess. And now we're going to attach this to our macrame board. So I'm going to bring in my macrame board. And I'm going to take my T-pin and I'm going to just stick it through my wire guardian. And now I'm going to load this up with some beads, right? As I can preload this and then I can attach my cord down at the bottom. I'll show you. So I'm going to load this up with, let's just start out with 2 or 3 because we are going to move on to that other piece here in just a second. But just to show you, I can load all of the beads on ahead of time, right? And then come down here and tuck the end of that. So those beads are not going to fall off. Now I can slide them up as I'm ready to use them. Okay. All right. So now as far as my knotting cord is concerned, I'm going to use some of that S-line. And I've just taken a really long piece of the S-line, about 6 feet. I know that sounds like a lot, but when you fold it in half, it's only 3 feet per side, right? So I'm going to take that and I'm going to find the middle. Okay. Now, we haven't learned a square knot yet, so all I'm going to do is just tie an overhanded knot, okay? The square knots are next week. So we're not ready for that yet. We're just going to tie an overhanded knot. Basically what I'm doing is I'm just tying this cord onto my bead stringing wire with an overhanded knot, and now I've got 2 strands, right? Easy peasy. Okay, So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do those knots that I showed you. We're going to do those lark's head knots with alternating sides. So I'm going to start with my right-handed cord. I'm going to cross it over the core, making a P shape. I'm going to go behind and up through. And then I'm going to pull. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing, but this time it goes underneath the core to make our P shape, and I'm going to go down through our P shape. And then I'm going to pull. Okay, now I'm going to move over to the left. So with my left-handed cord, making my backwards P shape across the top of the core, behind and up through, and I'm going to pull. Same thing, but this time goes underneath. So my P shape, or my backwards P shape, underneath the core, and then you go down through. Whoops. And then pull. And you'll notice when I pull, it's kind of like a slide, right? I'm sliding it up. So then I'm going to come back to the right side. So P shape over the core, behind and up through. And you can see as I pull the end, and then I kind of slide upwards, right? And then underneath the core and down through. And then again, it's a slide up. Okay. And then the left is our backwards P shape over the top of the core. And then up through and slide behind the core, and then down through and slide. And you can see it starts to take shape. It's very lacy. It has openings, right? All right, we're going to keep going, and then we're going to slide a bead up. Okay, so P shape on the right, over the top of the core, and then we're going behind and up through. Underneath the core and then down through. And you'll notice I kind of take my fingers up through the hole, that P shape, right? I come up through and grab that cord to pull it down through. That's just the way that it's easiest for me when I'm doing it underneath the core. You do what works for you. It may be a little bit easier for you to like actually take the tail end of the cord and go through. So do what works for you. It's just, I've gotten in the habit of doing it that way. It just makes it a little bit easier. I'll show it to you again here in just a second. But our P shape on the left, or our backwards P shape rather, over the top of the core, we're taking the cord behind and we come up through our backwards P shape and we pull. And then when we go underneath, right, we go behind, then that's when I kind of take my fingers up through to pull it down through and pull. I just don't want you to get confused about my finger movements, because it's really not necessarily about the fingers movement so much as the actual placement of where your cord is going. Okay, so don't get hung up on the small stuff, because what works for me might not work for you. All right, so now we've got, if you'll notice, we've got 3 holes on one side and 2 holes on this side. That second hole is a little bit harder for you to see. If I put my finger behind it, you can see it. Okay, so now I'm going to slide up a bead. Okay, now when you slide up a bead, you've got 2 cords. What do you do with them? You do the exact same thing. Exact same thing. You don't change anything just because you've added a bead here. So you're going to slide that up. We're doing our P shape on the right. We're going behind and up through and pull. And then our P shape goes behind the core. And then we take that cord down through the P shape and pull. Okay, so the bead is locked in place, and then we're just going to proceed like normal. So now we're picking up the left cord and get the right cord kind of out of the way a little bit. Okay, backwards P shape across the core, behind and up through, and pull. And then our P shape goes underneath, or our backwards P shape rather. Sorry about that. Our backwards P shape. And then we take our cord down through and pull. So that's how you're going to lock your bead in place, right? All right, I'm going to move over to our, the one that's got a little bit more progress. Let's just replace this one. Just so that we can get through it, because there is no way in the amount of time that we have left that we would get through the entire bracelet. But I do want to get as much of this done as we possibly can, and I want to be able to show you how to finish this, right? So let me attach that there. Okay, and you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've already got 6 beads here, and we are at about 4.5 inches as far as our length is concerned. So I'm going to go ahead and add a few more beads to this. All right, let's add 4 more beads to this. Okay, we'll see where we're at. All right, now just tucking that end down here, letting my beads fall. All right, now you can really see that kind of lacy look that happens. So you can see I've got 3 openings on one side and 2 openings on another side. So that is one thing about it. You're never going to have an even number of openings on either side. So the reason that I point that out is because let's say you wanted to add dangles to those openings, right? Because that's one of my favorite things to do to this kind of style is to add a jump ring. Let's say we wanted to add a jump ring in between the 3, right? So to add a jump ring right here to hang a dangle. Well, I can't really do that on the side that only has 2 and it be even. You can utilize every single hole, but for me, so I like to, since I'm all about things being even, like I would do the 3rd hole on this side, but then the 2nd hole in between the 3, and then I would do the same thing but on the opposite side. So I'd have dangles alternating, if that makes sense. So like I would use this hole here, and then I would use this hole on this one, and then I would use this hole here, and then I would use this hole on this one to add my dangles, just so that everything was even. But quite honestly, you can add dangles to all of them or none of them. I'm just giving you some inspiration, some extra little ideas there. Okay. So now I'm going to slide up a bead, right? And let's say just for a second that you walked away from this like we did, because we're just literally picking up where we left off, or where I left off from yesterday, right? I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, I'm going to slide a bead up. I know I'm ready for a bead, but how do I know which cord do I pick up with? Well, it's going to be the left cord is the one we finished with because it's on the bottom. So the knot that's on the bottom, you're going to pick up the other one, right? So if you walk away from this, and it doesn't matter if it's the right or the left, the knot that's on the bottom, the cord that is the furthest down, you're going to pick up the opposite of it. So we're going to slide up our bead and we're going to pick up with our right cord. Okay. So our P shape on the right, going behind and up through and pull. Okay, our P shape on the right, but this time going behind our core and taking that cord down through that P shape. Okay, pick up the left, backwards P shape going across the core. And pull. Our backwards P shape, this time going behind the core and taking the cord down through and pull. All right, so now that we've done that, I'm going to speed up a little bit, okay? So I'm going to put you in a better position here. And now I'm really just going to kind of speed through this to add a few more beads to this so we can finish this off. Probably won't be a full-size bracelet, but we'll do what we can, right? All right, so again, just going to speed up a little bit. So there's our P shape on the bottom. left side, backwards P, pull, backwards P behind, down through, and pull. Okay, on the right, and pull. Still on the right, but behind, down through, and pull. Left side, backwards P shape, behind, and up through. Backwards P shape behind the core, and down through, and pull. Okay, I've got 2 holes on either side. So I'm going to do one more knot. So there's a P shape on the right. Okay, then I'm going to slide up a bead. Okay, so backwards P shape. Backwards P shape, this one's just going behind. Pull. P shape on the right. Pull. P shape behind the cord, down through. Janelda says, does your core need to be wire, or can you use the same cord you use the P and the Q? Absolutely. So I just wanted to show that to you with the beading wire as your cord, just so that you would know that you have lots of possibilities. So yes, of course, if you wanted to take a piece of your S-line and tie an overhanded knot to make a loop for a button, just like we've done with other projects, so you can do it that way, right? You can do this. This can still be your core. You can slide up some of these beautiful large hole beads, right? I was just using some smaller hole beads and showing you just a variation. But yes, and that's a great question, because I don't want to throw anybody off. So thank you for asking that, because yes, you can use the exact same cord for your core, or you can use your bead stringing wire, right? Either one is going to work. You quite honestly can mix and match. You could do your core in the S-line if you wanted to, and you could do your knotting with the wax cord if you wanted to. Like, you can mix and match. It's totally up to you. But using the bead stringing wire as your cord just gives you an opportunity to use crimps and wire guardians and things like that, as opposed to using a button. So I'm just giving you options. That's all. But awesome question. Thank you for that. All right. What is this stitch called? So it is a lark's head knot with a single strand. Even though we're doing this alternating with 2 different strands, we're creating a lark's head knot with a single strand, because we're doing it on the right, and then we're doing a different one on the left. It is a lark's head knot. It's just a single strand lark's head knot, which makes it a little bit different than just like a classic lark's head knot that you would actually do with a folded over double, you would fold it over to double it. I was trying to stay away from what my classes call this, because this is JTV and JTV Extra. I will show you on the leather, if you would like to know the non-technical term of this. So let me show you. Showing you this way with the leather, because the knots are a little bit more pronounced. In my classes, like I said, I was trying to keep things a little professional, but this does quite honestly help people remember this knot. In my classes, we call this the tushy knot, because I know I know, trying to keep it professional here, but you forced my hand. We call this the tushy knot because if you'll turn it over and you look at it like this, it looks like a belt holding up a pair of pants. So that's sort of what we've just kind of got in the habit of calling this. That is absolutely not the technical term, but it does help people. Sometimes, getting something silly like that to add to something really kind of helps people remember things. So it looks like a belt, right? You create the belt to hold up the pants, and you can see these are the pants or the little tushy, right? Holding up. So we call this the tushy knot. So if you see that online somewhere, because it is online, that's what we call it in our classes, but it really is just a lark's head knot. We're just doing it with a single strand, and all we're doing is just alternating. So Wanda says we're being mooned. I know, I'm trying not to. This is JTV. I'm trying to behave. Okay. All right. I'm going to slide up one more bead. We've got about 6 minutes here, so I'm going to slide up one more bead, and we're going to do the knotting for it, and then we're going to finish this off. So I'm going to do, I don't think JTV knows what to do with me some of the time, so, oh gosh, there's Sara again. All right. It was just cord. There were no live legs or pants or belts, okay? But, things like that help people, that helps people to remember. So you'll never forget it now, I promise. Right? A little humor never hurt anybody. That's right. Never hurt anybody. Okie dokie. We do have our group comedian Wanda here. So, if you need a laugh, she's definitely got you covered. Too funny. All right. So I'm just alternating back and forth, and we're going to get a couple more knots in, and then we're going to finish this off. Now, the great thing about this S-Lon that we're using is that you can melt it. Now, as a general rule, I try not to use open flame in in my projects. If you guys have been with me over the years, I had an issue during a live class that I was teaching one time with an open flame where I just burned the whole end of a project off. So I try to avoid it at all costs. However, I do think that it is important to show, because number one, I have a fire extinguisher on hand just in case. But because it's important for you to know that it is possible to melt this if you're curious as to what to do with the ends. Okay, so I'm going to take this off of our macrame board, and you'll see I've come to the end here. Now this is going to be kind of a small bracelet. It's not too bad, but I'm going to finish this off just like any other stringing design, because I do have bead stringing wire as my core. So we're going to real quick crimp the end, and then we're going to melt the ends. So you don't have to, if you don't want to melt the ends, if that's not your thing and you can't be trusted with open flame, like I shouldn't be able to do. You absolutely, yes, I laugh at my own jokes. I am that person. You can tie it off and use a little bit of GS Hypo Cement, okay? So don't feel like you have to melt anything. You absolutely don't have to. It is just an option because of the way that this cord is made, which makes things really nice because it means you can get a clean finish off of this. If you don't want to do that though, you can always take your cords to the back, and let me trim these off, make them a little bit shorter. You can take your cords to the back, tie an overhanded knot and bring it down to the back surface of your work. So in other words, just take the two ends, tie an overhanded knot just like this. Okay. You're going to pull that down and it's going to lay. See how it lays flat up against your work? You can tie that really, really tight. Pull it down super, super tight. I'm not going to pull mine down tight. Add a little bit of hypo cement to this, or a little drop of E6000 on a piece of scrap wire or something, because it doesn't take much. And then let that dry, and then you can cut your ends off. Okay. Or you can leave it just like it is. Okay. Cut your ends even shorter. And you can use a thread zapper here if you want to, or you can use a lighter, which is what I'm going to do. But you just want to get close to the cord. Don't light it on fire. But see how it melts? And you're just going to melt it into a ball, and then you're just going to tap it down with your finger. And you've got a nice clean end, and it's not going to come undone, right? The key is just don't set it on actual fire. You're just melting it. Right, and then tapping it down with your finger, right? And then for the ends, since we either have, well, I have a wire guardian on one end, I don't have a wire guardian on the other end, but just showing you that you can have either or. And then you just add your hardware to it, and you've got yourself a bracelet. But you've got that beautiful back and forth of our little lark's head knot. So there you go. All right, guys, I'm going to turn you around. We are going to say our goodbyes. I hope that you guys have enjoyed our project today. I want to show this to you from this point of view, just so you can kind of get a little better perspective. It would make a beautiful necklace, make a great little bracelet, a section of a necklace. So lots and lots of possibilities. And it is just one knot that we have altered just slightly, right? We started with the half hitch knot last week, and this week we've just kind of taken it, and instead of going across the top, now we're going across the top and underneath the bottom. So we've just taken one thing and stepped one direction with that, and have opened up a whole new world of possibilities as far as your designs are concerned. And we're going to continue that all through the month of October. So same time, same place next Monday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern time. We're going to take this one step further, and we're going to step into the square knot. So I know there are some of you out there who struggle with a square knot. Come hang out with me on Monday. I'm going to take you step by step through the square knot, and I'm going to show you all the really cool possibilities with the square knot. Okay. All right, guys. Also set your reminders for Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern time for our Friday edition of Master Maker. So I'll be seeing you again then. If not, same time, same place next Monday. You guys have an amazing rest of your afternoon and a great week, and I will see you